4 months ago, I got a subdermal implant in my right ear, and it's gone now. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that happened. I'm going to start with a small disclaimer. The only reason I'm not mentioning my artist name is because, unfortunately, my experience hasn't ended positively, and I just, I don't blame that on him, and out of courtesy, I just don't want to tie his name to this video. If you are genuinely interested in getting something like this done in the UK, feel free to message me and I can let you know who it was. But yeah, if you don't know what a subdermal implant is, it's basically a silicone shape that is put under the skin so that the skin takes on the shape of the implant. I got a little ring in my ear. They don't actually do rings. The guy who does them is Steve Hayworth. He invented the procedure, and he's really big in body mods. You can look at his site and see all the different shapes they have. They don't actually do little circles, but they do cogs, and my artist just cut the spokes off the cog, so I got a little ring, which was a stupid idea, and I wish I hadn't got a ring because, well, it didn't heal right and it ended up not looking good. If I did it again, I'd probably get a different shape. But honestly, after what happened, I probably won't do it again, which is a shame because I love subdermal implants, but I don't think they're for me. So I had my subdermal implant put in on the 2nd of May 2015. It's now the 5th of September, so it's 4 months ago. And at the time, I took some footage and some photos showing, explaining what happened and the healing process and everything. So I'm just going to put those in now. Hey, so I just got back from getting my subdermal done, and I'm going to tell you all about it. I arrived and they put me in the chair, which is like a tattooing chair that like kind of lays you out flat, and not completely flat, but like, lays me down. So if I were to pass out or die or whatever, it'd be fine. And then he had like a big sheet, like the same kind they use in hospitals or whatever, like a sterile field. And I lay back kind of to one side like that. He cut a hole in the sheet and then put it over my ear and then kind of taped it down all the way around. The artist, the guy, lovely guy, he sort of looked at my ear and like drew a little bit, like marked the points like where he wanted it to lie. I was still pretty like worried at this point. I was like kind of sweating and like my boyfriend had a hold of my thigh. I was like, oh. So then he dabbed some iodine on my ear to like disinfect it, and he put his gloves on and everything, so it's being very sterile. And yeah, so then he took the needle, as just like a regular hospital needle, I guess, with lidocaine in it, and just injected it. I mean, I don't really know where he injected it, but he injected it like around here on the sort of like rim of my ear. Like it stung. It wasn't pleasant, but it was fine. It hurt a little bit. And then we just had like a chat while it started working, and then once it was working, he got to work, and I felt nothing. It was brilliant. I felt zero pain. It didn't even feel like pressure or anything. It wasn't even really uncomfortable. It was just like things were going on in my ear and I was vaguely aware of it, but like I was talking to my boyfriend and having a little chat with him and it was fine. So I asked my boyfriend what happened, and like you can watch videos of this. There are videos on this about this on YouTube. I didn't have mine videoed. But basically what they do is, well, I'll show you. I'll get nice and close. So you can see that there's like there's stitches along there, and that's where he cut me open. With like a scalpel, I guess. I don't know, I didn't ask. And then he kind of stuck an instrument in and sort of opened up a little pocket. So, he kind of, if my hand was the thing, he kind of cut in there, and then he put like a thing in and like lifted the skin up a bit to make a pocket for the subdermal to go in. And I didn't really feel any of that, and then he put it in. He made the pocket like the same size as the implant so it shouldn't move around too much, and he put it in, and I had really very little awareness of any of this, and then he said, oh, it's done, and I was like, really? That was really fast. That's fantastic. He told me that I had very obedient ears, and he said, like, I've got quite a large flat area here to play around with. I don't have very strange shaped ears, I guess, so it was quite easy. And then he just stitched me up. So I've got 3 little stitches in there, which I'll need to have taken out in a few days. It took about 20 minutes, completely painless. So then he told me about the aftercare. So basically what he's done is in the stitches, I can't really see any of this, so I can't describe it very clearly to you. I might try and film it tomorrow or something. But basically he's left a little gap between the stitches. So what I can do is, I'll try and make this clear for you, but like I can squeeze it here, and then like the lymph and blood and goo and stuff should come out that little hole. Yeah, so I just have to massage it, and I've been getting my boyfriend to do that because it kind of freaks me out. Because basically, this happened 7 hours ago. He put the numbing injection in, and my ear is still numb. I cannot feel a thing. But it just really is creeping me out to touch my ear right now. It's like so weird. So like, if I just touch along here, like, oh, it don't feel right. It don't feel good. It just, like, oh, it just doesn't feel like, it's not that I can't feel it at all, it just doesn't feel natural. And so you can see it's pretty red, it's pretty gross. I'm sorry the focusing, like the resolution is kind of low and it's kind of blurry and shitty. But that's what it looks like right now. And I think it's kind of moved away from the marks he put in. I mean, I can't see them very clearly, but my boyfriend said they're not really centered anymore. But, you know, whatever. Hopefully I'll, you know, wake up tomorrow morning being able to feel my ear again and see how things go. Hey, so it's day 2 and it's still pretty ugly and swollen. It swelled up really, really badly last night. And after I got the feeling back, it hurt really, really bad. I mean, you can see this big old lump here. Like, it's all gross. The thing is,
just be down to the nipples above your head.
George, that footage going in. Just imagine that you were playing with like a glass mouse.
Yeah.
With a crack in it.
Hmm.
That's how gentle you're gonna be.
Okay.
Ow, 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 ow. So it's now the 11th day since I had my implant put in, and it's doing pretty well. So, I mean, I have a picture from the timeline, but it's not really red anymore. It's definitely not purple anymore. It's still producing some gunge, and that gunge likes to run down this little crevice on the edge of my ear. So sometimes it gets all the way down to my earlobe, which is pleasant. It's still tender over the implant and tender sort of just here really, but not nearly as bad as it was, and you know, down here is fine, over here is fine, which were pretty tender at the beginning as well. Yeah, it's still not indented at all. I've been trying to get my boyfriend to squeeze it as often as possible, but honestly it was excruciating at first. And now it's bearable, but I just can't seem to get it to indent, so we'll see how that progresses. This morning, well, for the last few days, the skin over the implant has been quite dry and scaly, and today a whole bunch of it just sort of flaked off. So I'm not sure why that happens, but it's now, like, the skin is now looking quite a bit better. I still can't sleep on that side, so it's still a bit of a pain in the ass. My artist told me that it should be healed in like 2 weeks, but I'm not really seeing that happening for me. But you know, it's a journey and we're carrying on. A few days after that, I got the stitches taken out. I did that at home, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. I would have done it myself if it was a place where I could see, but I couldn't. So I got my boyfriend to do it just with nail scissors and tweezers. So what happened after that? Basically, it never indented. I tried, you know, massaging it and squeezing it as best I could, but I couldn't get any fluid out. It never indented, and it ended up basically, because it was a ring and not a different shape or anything, it just looked like a lump, like a blister or something like that on my ear. It didn't look great. Then after that, it just never healed. it stayed red and sore, and I couldn't sleep on that side ever. The whole time I had it in, I couldn't really sleep on my ear. It was tender, it looked gross, you know, gunk would keep coming out of it, and it never healed. And you know, I stayed hopeful for so long. I was like, if I'm just really good with it, you know, maybe it's just taking forever. But then one day it felt strange, and I took a look, I took a photo, and as you can see, it was rejecting the whole time. So I got my boyfriend to do this at home. You know, I'm a fan of home surgery, obviously, but I got him to just cut the ring and then like take one end with tweezers and just pull it out. It took like 2 seconds. It stung a tiny bit, but it was fine. Just seemed easier than going, you know, back to the artist or to the doctors or anything. And this is what it looked like afterwards. It's a terrible photo, but this is what it looked like afterwards. And yeah, this is what it looks like now. So I took it out on the 30th of July. So it was just over a month ago. And let's have a look. So I don't know how well you can see really, but you can still see where the middle of the ring was. There's like a little circle that's raised. But I don't really have any major scar, and it honestly, it doesn't bother me. It's my ear. I don't see it. I don't think it's a big deal. I just wish it had worked, but it didn't, which is really unlucky. I do have to be honest though, like hand on heart, I probably poked it too much, you know, because it kept oozing gunk and it was really gross. I would, you know, try and remove it every day, and that probably didn't help the healing process. And looking back, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd left it alone more. I really tried, and some days I really wouldn't touch it, but it's just, I'm a fiddler and a scab picker. I'm like one of those people, and it was, you know, difficult. So I don't think that helped, unfortunately. So whether I caused it to reject or whether it would have rejected anyway, I don't know. My advice, obviously, if you do want to get subdermal, is to try and leave it alone as much as possible, as much as you possibly can, you know, except for whatever instructions your artist gives you for aftercare. Overall, I'm glad I tried it. You know, I think it would have been awesome if it had worked out. I still think subdermals are really cool. You know, if I were a more hardcore person, I would consider getting one somewhere else, but honestly, the ear is the only place where I could see myself getting one. I know you can get them like down here behind the ear, and you know, where girls sometimes get tattoos and stuff, but you know, it's kind of pointless because you can't see it very well, and the skin is thicker there, so you need a bigger implant and blah blah blah. I've also know that people get them in their conch now because there's like space there, but you know, I prefer this site, to be honest. I think it's a really cute site. And I would still definitely recommend, if you want to get a subdermal implant, go for it. Like, they're awesome. But be aware that they can reject. My best advice is, you know, keep it clean, try not to fiddle with it, and follow the aftercare instructions as best as you can. If you have any questions or comments, obviously, you know, leave them down below on the video, or message me. And